The silver ships moved through space like deadly sharks in dark water. 300 vessels of the Zephyrian Empire cut through the void with perfect formation. Each ship gleamed with advanced metal that human eyes had never seen. Their weapons could tear apart planets. Their shields could stop any known attack. Supreme Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. His tall, thin body cast a shadow across the control panels. His forearms moved with quick precision as he studied the data screens. His large black eyes showed no emotion as he looked at the readings from the small blue planet ahead. "Commander, we have finished scanning the third planet," said his aide, a younger Zephyrian with bright purple markings on his gray skin. "The species calls their world Earth. They are very primitive." Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter in another species. "How primitive?" "They still use chemical rockets, sir. Their fastest ships barely reach their nearest moon. They have some colonies on the fourth planet and a few mining stations, but nothing more. Their weapons are basic metal projectiles and simple energy beams." The commander walked to the main viewing screen. Earth hung before them like a blue marble, small and helpless. Clouds swirled around the continents. City lights sparkled on the dark side like tiny stars. 17 systems, Vextar said quietly. 17 different species. All of them had better technology than this. All of them surrendered within days of our arrival. He had been conquering worlds for 40 years. The pattern was always the same. His fleet would arrive. The local species would see his superior numbers and advanced ships. They would try to fight for a few hours or maybe a few days. Then they would surrender and accept Zephyrian rule. The humans would be no different. Far below on Earth, Captain Alex Turner stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force. Red warning lights flashed across every screen in the room. The 35-year-old officer had spent his whole career preparing for this moment, but now that it was here, the reality felt like a punch to the stomach. "Sir, the objects are definitely ships," reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. 300 of them. They stopped just outside our sensor range 2 hours ago." Alex rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept in 36 hours. None of them had. "Any response to our communications?" "Nothing, sir. We've tried every frequency. They're just sitting there." Colonel Lisa Martinez entered the command center. Her boots clicked on the metal floor as she walked to Alex's position. "The asteroid belt stations are reporting the same thing. Whatever these ships are, they're not from any nation on Earth." Alex nodded. They all knew what this meant. First contact with an alien species, and these aliens had brought an army. "Have you reached Admiral Sullivan?" Alex asked. "He's on his way from Mars," Lisa replied. "But that's still 18 hours even on the fastest transport." The main screen showed a tactical display of the solar system. Red dots marked the position of the alien fleet. Green dots showed Earth's defensive positions. The difference in numbers made Alex's chest feel tight. "How many ships do we have?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. 47 combat vessels, Lisa said. Most of them are patrol boats and system defense craft. The UES Defiance is our biggest ship, and it's smaller than their smallest vessel. Alex looked at the screen for a long moment. 47 ships against 300. Old human technology against unknown alien science. It should have been hopeless. But Alex thought about his grandfather, who had fought in World War II. His grandfather had told him stories about impossible battles where small groups of soldiers held off much larger armies. He thought about every underdog in human history who had faced better odds and somehow found a way to win. "Sir," Amy called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the alien fleet." "Put it on screen." The tactical display changed to show a tall gray figure with 4 arms and large black eyes. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. "I am Supreme Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your species will surrender immediately. You will become part of our empire. You will serve our interests. This is not a negotiation, this is a statement of fact. You have one of your time periods called hours to respond." The transmission ended. The command center fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the quiet breathing of the human crew. Alex stood up slowly. He looked around the room at the faces of his people. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. All of them looked determined. "Get me a channel to that ship," he said. "Sir, are you going to surrender?" Amy asked quietly. Alex thought about his grandfather again. He thought about every human who had ever faced impossible odds and decided to fight anyway. He thought about Earth and every person living on it. "Open the channel," he said. The screen showed Supreme Commander Vextar again. The alien looked bored, as if this conversation was just a formality before the inevitable surrender. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the Earth Defense Force," Alex said. His voice was calm and steady. "I have a message for you and your empire." Vextar's large eyes focused on the screen. "You will surrender?" Alex smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a species that had clawed its way to the top of its food chain through pure stubbornness and the refusal to give up. "Come and take it." Supreme Commander Vextar stared at the communication screen for a full minute after the human transmission ended. In 40 years of conquest, no species had ever said those words to him. "Come and take it." The phrase was simple, but the meaning behind it made something cold settle in his stomach. "Sir, should we begin the attack?" asked his aide. Vexatar looked at the tactical display. Earth's 47 ships had moved into defensive positions around their planet. It looked like a school of small fish trying to protect themselves from a pack of sharks. "Begin standard assault pattern," he ordered. "This will be over quickly." The Zephyrian fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged with blue energy that could melt through any known metal. Their shields hummed with power that had never been broken. Captain Alex Turner watched the alien ships approach on his command screen. The UES Defiance shook slightly as its old engines pushed it into position. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet focus. "All ships, this is Defiance," Alex spoke into his communications unit. "Remember the plan. We don't fight their fight. We fight our fight." The first Zephyrian attack came exactly as expected. Beams of blue energy lanced out from their ships toward the human defensive line. The humans scattered like leaves in the wind, but they didn't run away. Commander Jake Powell piloted his ship, the converted mining vessel Rocky Mountain, straight toward the nearest Zephyrian destroyer. His ship had been a simple ore hauler 2 days ago. Now it was packed with every explosive they could find. "Powell, what are you doing?" Alex's voice crackled over the radio. "What humans do best, sir," Jake replied. His ship accelerated toward the alien vessel. "We improvise." The Zephyrian destroyer fired at the approaching human ship. Blue energy beams tore through the Rocky Mountain's hull, but Jake kept flying. The ship was falling apart around him, but he kept his hands on the controls. The Rocky Mountain slammed into the destroyer's side and exploded. The blast tore a hole in the alien ship's hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a stream of frozen gas. Vextar felt his first moment of surprise. No civilized species used suicide attacks. It was wasteful, it was inefficient, it was insane. "Sir, the destroyer Bright Talon is damaged," reported his aide. "Hull breach on 3 levels. 1 ship," Vextar said. "They traded 1 ship for minor damage to one of ours." But even as he spoke, more human ships were breaking from formation. Some headed straight for his vessels in suicide runs. Others darted between his ships like angry insects, firing their primitive weapons at any target they could find. Lieutenant Amy Brooks commanded a group of civilian cargo ships that had been fitted with old military weapons. Her ships moved in ways no military manual had ever described. They hid behind asteroids, used their own destroyed vessels as cover, and attacked from angles the Zephyrians never expected. "Target their sensor arrays," Amy ordered her small fleet. "We can't hurt their main hulls, but we can blind them." Her ships fired dozens of small missiles at the Zephyrian battlecruiser Void Striker. Most of the missiles exploded harmlessly against the alien shields, but a few got through and destroyed the external sensors. The Void Striker began firing wildly, unable to track its targets properly. Sergeant Dan Carter led a team of 12 Marines in a desperate boarding action. They used small fighter craft to approach a damaged Zephyrian destroyer. The aliens had never designed their ships to stop individual soldiers from getting inside. Dan's team cut through the hull with plasma torches and fought their way to the bridge. The Zephyrians inside were taller and stronger than humans, but they had never fought in hand-to-hand combat. They had conquered every world with long-range weapons and superior technology. "Take the weapons controls," Dan shouted to his team as they secured the bridge. "Turn their own guns on their friends." Within minutes, the captured destroyer was firing on its own fleet. Vextar watched his tactical display with growing confusion. The human fleet was falling apart under his attack, but somehow they were causing more damage than they should. His ships were being hit by debris, blinded by small weapons, and confused by tactics that made no sense. "Sir, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered," his aide said. "They are primitives," Vextar replied, but his voice sounded less certain than before. "They will break soon." But the humans did not break. When their ships were destroyed, the surviving crew members ejected in escape pods and continued to fight with hand weapons. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they rammed their ships into alien vessels. When their ships were too damaged to fly, they used them as shields for other human craft. Captain Alex Turner's ship, the UES Defiance, had lost its main weapons and its shields were failing, but Alex kept fighting. He ordered his crew to load their torpedo tubes with everything they had left. Not just torpedoes, but spare parts, pieces of metal, anything that might cause damage. "Sir, that's not how torpedoes are supposed to work," his weapons officer said. "Today we make our own rules," Alex replied. The makeshift projectiles flew toward a Zephyrian cruiser. Most of them did nothing, but one piece of metal, spinning at high speed, punched through a weak point in the alien ship's armor and hit something important inside. The cruiser's engines exploded. After 6 hours of battle, Vextar made a decision that no Zephyrian commander had ever made before. He ordered his fleet to retreat. Not because his ships were destroyed. Most of them were still functional. Not because his weapons had failed. They still worked perfectly. He retreated because the humans scared him. The human fleet was broken. Most of their ships were destroyed or drifting in space. But the surviving humans were still fighting, still attacking, still refusing to surrender. As his fleet pulled back to a safe distance, Vextar studied the reports from the battle. Humans had used tactics that no military academy taught. They fought with equipment that was not designed for war. They turned their own destruction into weapons against their enemies. "Sir, should we call for reinforcements?" his aide asked. Vextar looked at the blue planet hanging in space before them. Such a small world, such primitive creatures, but they had just done something no other species had done in 40 years. They had made the Zephyrian Empire retreat. "Yes," Vextar said quietly. "Call for reinforcements, many reinforcements, and tell the other commanders to study every piece of data we have about human warfare. We need to understand what we are fighting." In the wreckage of the human fleet, Captain Alex Turner counted his losses. 31 ships destroyed, hundreds of good people dead. But Earth was still free. His communication officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we're getting reports from around the solar system. Mining stations, cargo ships, even some tourist vessels. They're all asking the same question." "What question?" "When do we attack them back?" Alex looked at the retreating alien fleet and smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when he told them to come and take it. The smile of a species that had never learned how to quit. Supreme Commander Vextar stood in his command center surrounded by holographic displays showing 600 Zephyrian warships. He had called for the largest fleet in the Empire's history. This time, there would be no mistakes. "The reinforcements have arrived, sir," his aide reported. "Fleet Admiral Zektos brings 300 additional vessels and new tactical protocols." Vextar nodded. Fleet Admiral Zektos was known throughout the Empire as their greatest military mind. If anyone could solve the human problem, it would be him. The tall, silver-skinned admiral materialized as a hologram beside Vextar. His eyes glowed with confidence as he studied the tactical data. "These humans fight like wild animals," Zektos said after reviewing the battle reports. "But animals can be trapped. We will surround their system completely, cut off all supply lines, force them to come to us on our terms. They do not think like other species. Vextar warned. Their tactics make no logical sense. All species follow the same basic patterns when facing extinction, Zektos replied. The humans will surrender when they realize they cannot win. But the humans had been preparing for this moment since the first battle ended. Admiral Jake Sullivan had returned from Mars and taken command of Earth's defenses. The graying 50-year-old officer had spent 30 years studying military history and preparing for the day when Earth might face an alien invasion. They think they're laying siege to us, Admiral Sullivan said to his senior staff in the underground command bunker, but they don't understand what humans do during a siege. Master Chief Rick Davis spread tactical maps across the conference table. The 42-year-old veteran had trained Special Forces teams for asteroid belt warfare for 15 years. Now, those skills would be put to the ultimate test. Sir, we've identified their command ships, Rick reported. They're keeping them in the center of their formation, protected by layers of smaller vessels. That's their first mistake, Sullivan said. They're thinking defensively. We need to teach them why that's a bad idea when fighting humans. Dr. Helen Baker entered the briefing room carrying a computer tablet filled with alien technology data. The brilliant scientist had spent weeks analyzing wreckage from the first battle. I've found weaknesses in their ship designs, she announced. Their shields are incredibly strong against energy weapons, but they have blind spots, small gaps, where their own sensors can't track incoming objects. How small? Rick asked. Small enough for a single person in a spacesuit. Admiral Sullivan smiled. It was the kind of smile that had made enemy generals nervous for centuries. The new Zephyrian siege began exactly as Fleet Admiral Zektos had planned. His ships formed a perfect sphere around Earth's solar system. Nothing could get in or out without his permission. He would starve the humans into surrender. But humans had been breaking sieges since the dawn of warfare. Captain Nina Foster commanded the newly commissioned UES Retribution, built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering. Her ship looked nothing like the sleek Zephyrian vessels. It was a patchwork of metal plates, jury-rigged weapons, and systems that should not have worked together, but somehow did. Target acquired, her weapons officer reported. Zephyrian command cruiser, bearing 27 Mark V. Remember the plan, Nina said. We don't try to destroy it. We board it. The Retribution accelerated toward the alien command ship, dodging energy beams and missile strikes. At the last second, Nina ordered her ship to spin sideways and scrape along the Zephyrian hull. Magnetic clamps deployed, attaching the human vessel to the alien one like a parasite. Cutting torches began burning through the alien hull. Master Chief Rick Davis led his team through the breach into the Zephyrian ship. The aliens inside were ready for them, but they had prepared for the wrong kind of fight. They expected organized military assault. Instead, they got something that looked more like organized chaos. Rick's team moved through the ship using tactics that no alien military academy taught. They crawled through ventilation systems, used maintenance tunnels, and attacked from directions the ship's designers had never considered. Remember, Rick spoke into his radio as his team split up. We're not here to hold territory. We're here to break things and leave. The humans planted explosives throughout the command ship's critical systems. Not enough to destroy the vessel, but enough to cripple its communications and sensors. Then they vanished back to their own ship, before the aliens could organize a proper response. Commander Tony Blake was leading a similar mission on another Zephyrian vessel when he discovered something unexpected. The alien ship's computer core contained star charts, fleet positions, and most importantly, the locations of every world the Zephyrians had conquered. Sir, you need to see this, Tony transmitted to Admiral Sullivan. I'm downloading their entire tactical database. The information Tony recovered changed everything. The Zephyrians had not just conquered 17 systems. They had enslaved the populations of dozens of worlds. Billions of beings lived under Zephyrian rule, forced to serve an empire that had never known defeat. Until now, Admiral Sullivan studied the alien star charts in his command bunker. Each conquered world was marked with symbols showing population, resources, and military strength. They spread themselves thin, he observed. Small garrison forces on each world, depending on their fleet to maintain control. "What are you thinking?" "Sir?" Master Chief Davis asked. "I'm thinking that Earth isn't just fighting for survival anymore," Sullivan replied. "We're fighting to free every world these aliens have conquered, and the best defense is a good offense." Fleet Admiral Zektos watched his siege slowly fall apart. Human ships appeared where they should not be able to go. His command vessels were being attacked by forces that materialized from empty space. His communications were being disrupted by tactics he could not understand. "Sir, the humans are using our own supply ships against us," his tactical officer reported. "They're hiding inside cargo containers and attacking from within our own fleet." "How is that possible?" Zektos demanded. "We do not know, sir. Our sensors show empty containers, but somehow humans are inside them." What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had been practicing for exactly this kind of warfare for decades. Earth's military had trained for fighting against superior technology by using stealth, deception, and the willingness to take risks that no sane species would consider. The breaking point came when Captain Nina Foster led a coordinated attack on 3 Zephyrian command ships simultaneously. Her forces captured intact alien vessels and turned their weapons on their own fleet. For the second time in Zephyrian history, Supreme Commander Vextar found himself ordering a retreat. But this time was different. This time, the humans followed. "Admiral," Sullivan's voice reached the retreating alien fleet on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Jake Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force. You came to our home and tried to make us slaves. Now we're coming to yours. Every world you've conquered, every species you've enslaved, we're going to set them free. Run back to your empire and tell them that Earth is no longer playing defense." As the human ships pursued the retreating Zephyrian fleet toward the edge of the solar system, Admiral Sullivan turned to his staff. "Gentlemen, ladies, prepare for humanity's first interstellar war. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you pick a fight with Earth." Admiral Alex Turner stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Vengeance. The ship was built from a mixture of human engineering and captured Zephyrian technology. It looked strange, with Earth's angular design mixed with the smooth curves of alien science, but it worked better than anything humans had ever built before. "Admiral, we're approaching the Arcturus system," reported his navigation officer. "Long-range sensors show 12 Zephyrian vessels and what appears to be a mining operation on the 4th planet." Alex studied the tactical display. According to the stolen alien data, the planet Arcturus 4 had been conquered 15 years ago. Its original inhabitants, a peaceful species called the Corvani, had been forced to work in the mines that fed the Zephyrian war machine. "Signal the fleet," Alex ordered. "Remember, our job is not just to defeat the Zephyrians, we're here to free everyone they've enslaved." Captain Steve Morrison commanded the UES Liberation, one of 6 human ships in the strike force. His vessel carried not just weapons but supplies and medical equipment for the freed populations they hoped to find. "All ships, this is Admiral Turner." Alex's voice came over the communication system. "We're going in fast and hard. Hit their ships first, then secure the mining facilities. And remember what we learned from the Zephyrian tactical manuals. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus system. Immediately, alarms began sounding on the Zephyrian ships, but the humans were no longer the desperate defenders they had been months ago. They attacked. With the precision of the Zephyrian military, combined with the unpredictability that made humans so dangerous. Captain Steve Morrison's ship launched a spread of missiles toward the nearest Zephyrian destroyer. But these were not ordinary missiles. Human engineers had modified them with alien technology and added a few surprises of their own. The first wave of missiles exploded against the alien shields as expected, but the second wave contained special warheads that generated electromagnetic pulses, disrupting the Zephyrian ship's electronics. The third wave carried small robots that attached to the enemy hull and began cutting through the armor. "Direct hit," Steve's weapons officer reported. "Enemy shields are down, and they're venting atmosphere." The Zephyrian commander of the mining facility sent a distress signal to the nearest Imperial base, but human ships jammed the transmission before it could get through. "This is impossible," the alien commander said to his bridge crew. "These primitive humans should not be able to coordinate attacks like this." What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had been studying their tactics for months. Every captured ship, every piece of alien technology, every tactical manual had been analyzed by Earth's best military minds. But humans had added something the Zephyrians could never have predicted. They had improved the alien tactics with human creativity. Admiral Turner's ship, the Vengeance, approached the largest Zephyrian vessel. Instead of engaging in a traditional ship-to-ship battle, Alex ordered his crew to execute a maneuver no alien military academy had ever taught. The Vengeance suddenly split apart. The ship had been designed with detachable sections that could operate independently. The main hull continued toward the Zephyrian ship, while smaller sections attacked from different angles. It looked like one ship had somehow become 5. The confused Zephyrians tried to target all the attacking vessels, but their targeting computers could not keep up with the rapidly changing tactical situation. Within an hour, the human fleet had destroyed or captured every Zephyrian ship in the system. But the real work was just beginning. Captain Maria Santos led the ground assault on the mining facilities. She found thousands of Corvani workers living in conditions that made her angry enough to want to fight the entire Zephyrian empire by herself. The Corvani were small, furry creatures, with large eyes and gentle dispositions. They had never developed weapons of war because they had never needed them. Their world had been peaceful until the Zephyrians arrived. "You are free," Maria told the Corvani leader, an elderly female named Vasha. "The humans have come to help you." Vasha looked at the human soldiers with confusion. "Free? We do not understand. The Grey Ones said we would always serve." "The Grey Ones were wrong," Maria replied. "But if you want to stay free, you need to learn to fight for yourselves." What happened next amazed even the humans. The Corvani were peaceful by nature, but they were not stupid. When Maria's team began teaching them basic military tactics, the small aliens learned with incredible speed. "They have natural advantages we never considered," Maria reported to Admiral Turner. "They're small enough to hide in places no human or Zephyrian could fit. Their large eyes give them excellent night vision, and they know every tunnel and hiding place on this planet." Within days, the Corvani had formed their own resistance force. They could not match human or Zephyrian technology, but they could move through their world like ghosts, gathering intelligence and planning attacks. Colonel Peter Johnson arrived with the second wave of human ships, bringing supplies and reinforcements. But he also brought something more important: communication equipment that could reach other conquered worlds. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from 17 different star systems," Peter reported. "Word is spreading that someone is finally fighting back against the Zephyrians." The messages came from dozens of different species. Some had been conquered recently. Others had served the Zephyrian Empire for generations. But all of them were asking the same question: how can we help? Admiral Turner found himself commanding not just human ships but an alliance of different alien species, all united by their hatred of Zephyrian rule. The Altarians from Kepler 442b were skilled engineers who could build weapons from scrap metal. The Vorthon from the Vega system were natural pilots who could fly anything with engines. The Corvani became expert scouts and saboteurs. Each species brought their own advantages to the growing rebellion. Supreme Commander Vextar received reports of the disaster at Arcturus with growing alarm. Not only had the humans defeated his forces, but they had somehow convinced the local population to join their rebellion. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from 6 other systems," his aide reported. "The humans are not just conquering our outposts, they're organizing the conquered populations into military forces." Vextar studied the strategic display showing the Zephyrian Empire. Red indicators showed human activity spreading like a disease through the outer systems. "They're teaching them to fight," Vextar said quietly. "The humans are teaching every conquered species how to resist us." "Should we send reinforcements to the outer systems?" his aide asked. "No," Vextar replied. "Call back all our scattered forces, every ship, every garrison, every patrol. Bring them all back to defend the core systems. Sir, that will leave the outer worlds completely undefended." "The outer worlds are already lost," Vextar said. The humans have turned our own empire against us. Now we must prepare for the final battle. On the liberated world of Arcturus IV, Admiral Turner received reports from human forces throughout Zephyrian space. Every day brought news of new victories, new allies, and new species joining the rebellion. But he also knew that the real fight was still ahead. The Zephyrians were pulling back to their core systems, concentrating their remaining forces for a final stand. "Admiral," Captain Maria Santos approached with a group of alien allies. "The Corvani have a question for you." Vasha, the elderly Corvani leader, stepped forward. Her large eyes glowed with determination that had not been there when the humans first arrived. "Admiral Turner," she said in her soft voice, "when do we attack their homeworld?" Alex looked around at the diverse group of beings who had joined humanity's fight for freedom. Humans, Corvani, Altarians, Vorthons, and representatives from dozen other species. All of them looking to Earth for leadership in the final battle against their oppressors. "Soon," Alex replied. "Very soon. But first we need to make sure we're ready, because when we attack the Zephyrian homeworld, there won't be any retreat. We either free the galaxy, or we die trying." The assembled aliens nodded with grim determination. They had learned something from humanity that the Zephyrians never expected. Sometimes the best way to ensure peace is to be very good at war. Admiral Alex Turner stood before the largest fleet in galactic history. 5,000 ships from 30 different species filled the space around Kepler 442b. Human vessels flew alongside Corvani scout ships, Altarian engineering barges, and Vorthon fighters. The fleet looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Turner." Alex spoke into his communication system. "Today we end the Zephyrian Empire forever. Today we make sure no species will ever again live in fear of conquest." The journey to Zephys Prime, the Zephyrian homeworld, took 3 weeks. During that time, the diverse Alliance fleet practiced coordinated attacks and learned to work together. Humans taught alien species about combined arms tactics. The aliens shared their unique abilities with human commanders. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the UES Liberation, now modified with weapons from 6 different alien technologies. Her ship carried not just human crew, but Corvani engineers, Altarian technicians, and Vorthon pilots working side by side. "Ma'am, we're receiving long-range sensor data from the scout ships," her tactical officer reported. "The Zephyrian home system is heavily defended. At least 800 ships and multiple orbital defense platforms." Lisa studied the tactical display. The Zephyrians had pulled back their entire remaining fleet to defend their homeworld. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. "Signal the Admiral," she ordered. "Tell him we're ready for the final push." Supreme Commander Vextar walked through the command center of his most powerful battleship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, his staff worked with desperate efficiency to prepare their defenses. The ship was 5 times larger than any human vessel, and armed with weapons that could destroy entire moons. But Vextar no longer felt confident about Zephyrian superiority. The humans had taught him that technology alone did not win wars. "Sir, our scouts report the enemy fleet approaching," his aide announced. "The number of ships is unprecedented." Vextar looked at the tactical display showing thousands of approaching vessels. It was not just the size of the enemy fleet that worried him. It was what those ships represented. Every conquered species in the galaxy, united under human leadership, coming to end Zephyrian rule forever. "All ships prepare for battle," Vextar ordered. "We fight for the survival of our empire." The battle began at the edge of the Zephys system. Zephyrian defense platforms launched massive energy beams toward the approaching Alliance fleet. The combined fleet scattered and reformed, using tactics that mixed human unpredictability with alien abilities. Vorthon pilots, with their natural flying skills, darted between energy beams in small fighters. Corvani scouts used their tiny ships to map weak points in the Zephyrian defenses. Altarian engineers had modified human weapons to work with alien power systems. Admiral Turner coordinated the massive battle from his flagship, the UES Vengeance, but he was not commanding just human forces. He was leading representatives from every species that had ever suffered under Zephyrian rule. Phase 1 complete. reported Captain Steve Morrison from the UES Liberation. Defense platforms neutralized, beginning assault on the main fleet. The space around Zephyrus Prime became a storm of energy weapons, missiles, and exploding ships, but this battle was different from every previous engagement. The Alliance fleet fought with perfect coordination, each species using their strengths to support the others. Human ships provided heavy firepower and tactical leadership. Vorthon fighters protected the larger vessels from Zephyrian attack craft. Corvini scouts gathered intelligence and guided missile strikes. Altarian ships repaired damaged Alliance vessels in the middle of combat. Supreme Commander Vextar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by enemies who fought like no military force he had ever faced. The humans had not just taught other species to fight, they had taught them to fight together. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than we can replace them," his tactical officer reported. "The enemy is using coordinated attacks we cannot counter." "Signal the planetary defenses," Vextar ordered. "Prepare to defend the homeworld itself." But the Alliance fleet had learned from every battle they had fought. When Zephyrus Prime's surface batteries began firing, the combined fleet was ready. Captain Lisa Rodriguez led a coordinated strike against the planet's orbital defenses. Her ship, protected by Vorthon fighters and guided by Corvani scouts, punched through the defensive perimeter and began targeting the surface installations. "All batteries on the northern continent are down," she reported. Beginning assault on the capital city defenses. Admiral Turner's voice reached every ship in the Alliance fleet. "All units, this is Admiral Turner. We're not here to destroy the Zephyrian people. We're here to end their empire. Target military installations only. Protect civilian areas." This surprised the Zephyrians more than any tactical maneuver. No conquering army in galactic history had ever shown concern for enemy civilians. The final moment came when Admiral Turner's ship, the Vengeance, approached the Eternal Dominion for a direct confrontation. The two flagships faced each other, above the Zephyrian homeworld. "Supreme Commander Vextar," Turner's voice came over the communication system. "This is Admiral Alex Turner of Earth. Your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your conquered worlds are free. Surrender now and your people will be treated with honor." Vexatar looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His ship was barely functional. His empire was collapsing around him. But more than that, he finally understood. What made humans so dangerous? They did not fight for conquest or glory, they fought for freedom, and they were willing to die for that freedom. "Admiral Turner," Vextar said quietly, "I surrender." The words that no Zephyrian had ever spoken before echoed across the battlefield. The Eternal Dominion powered down its weapons. One by one, the remaining Zephyrian ships followed their commander's example. The war was over. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Sullivan, now promoted to Grand Admiral of the Allied Systems Fleet, stood before the first meeting of the new Galactic Council. Representatives from 47 different species filled the chamber on the former Zephyrian capital world. "The age of empire is over," Sullivan announced to the assembled delegates. "From this day forward, no species will conquer another. No world will be enslaved. We will explore the galaxy together as equals." The Zephyrian representative, former Supreme Commander Vextar, stood to address the council. His people had been allowed to keep their homeworld and join the new alliance as equals. "I have learned something from humanity," Vextar said. "We thought conquest made us strong. But we were wrong. Cooperation makes us stronger." Admiral Turner, now serving as the first Supreme Commander of Allied Defense Forces, watched the proceedings with satisfaction. Earth had not sought to become the leader of a galactic empire. But humanity's example had inspired others to fight for their freedom. The meeting concluded with the signing of the Galactic Freedom Charter, a document that guaranteed the rights of all species to govern themselves and defend their homes. The delegates filed out of the chamber. Grand Admiral Sullivan was approached by a young Corvani officer who had served in the final battle. "Admiral," the small alien said, "my people have a question. Now that the war is over, what will humans do?" Sullivan smiled. It was the same smile that had appeared on human faces throughout the war. The smile of a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain, not through strength or speed, but through determination and the refusal to give up. "What we've always done," Sullivan replied. "We'll explore new worlds, make new friends, and if anyone threatens our freedom or the freedom of our allies, we'll remind them why it's a bad idea to pick a fight with humans." The Corvani officer nodded with understanding. She had learned something important during the war. Humans were peaceful by choice, not by nature, and anyone who mistook that choice for weakness would learn the same lesson the Zephyrians had learned. In the galaxy, there were many species stronger than humans. There were species faster than humans. There were species with better technology than humans. But there was no species more dangerous to face in battle than humans who were fighting for their freedom. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity would make sure it stayed that way.